Welcome to Apocalypse Mode. Blah, 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 blah. What's up, folks? I want to do a real quick rundown of the rewards in Apocalypse Mode, kind of how it feels to play it, and a little bit more about just kind of a recap of what we talked about before, and then just some feelings about it. So, first of all, again, this is Apocalypse Mode. This is the new competitive tiers that are weekly for rewards in the 400-point casual mode of Warhammer Combat Cards. Got your competitive ladder, and then you have a ranked mode, and then you have Apocalypse mode where you have the larger decks, and then progression is weekly, resets to 0 at the beginning of every single week, and then I want to say it resets on Wednesdays. So every Wednesday you go to 0, then you have 1 week to get up to 2,000 trophies with your top 6 factions of the 9. And as you can see, I've done a pretty decent progression here. This is still day 1, turned over this morning. I played a fair amount today, but it was pretty casual. It really was not hard to get up close to 1,000 trophies in one day. So you really can do this fairly comfortably. Now, so this is kind of the 6 different top factions. I did try League's Baton real quick, but promptly found that I couldn't actually fill a deck. So even though I won, I didn't really feel good leaving like 50 points on the table. So my expensive Votan cards are the ones that are lagging in level. So I didn't really feel good about it. But everything else progresses about the way you'd expect it to in the ladder, where if you have trait rank 3 plus cards, you do fairly well, and it's considerably easier than ranked. That may change because the vast majority of the games I've been playing are against people that have 0 points. So they're decks that were in Apocalypse mode previously that have never played since it changed over today to the ranked Apocalypse mode. Yeah, so seeing this here, really been enjoying Tyranids, Space Marines. I had a quest for the Lion, so I went out and played some Space Marines. Eldari, of course, is terrific, and I'll talk about some decks in a minute, but I wanted to look at the rewards first. So if you go through all of the different sectors, it's, what is it, every 200, I think? So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it's 10 packs, 10 completely random packs, but still 10 rewards packs for this every week is pretty good. Then you're also looking at 300 gold, 200 gold. So 200 gold, 10 packs. That'll keep you going, especially since it does also give you progression on your skull packs, gives you progressions on the Imperial Treasury and or the Battle Pass. Will do your quests, so it doesn't feel as much like a waste of time as it used to, because now there is built-in progression and everything else still works. But let's talk a little bit about deck building. I had one commenter today saying that they were really having trouble playing this. So let's look at some of the decks I've been running. Not that one. That was just totally goofy. One thing that I really want to highlight here is, again, of course, we're talking 400 deck points. But one thing that's easy to forget in that is that means that your theme has to be even stronger than in the 200-point ladder deck points. Because whatever you put on the field has to work, regardless of what cards you draw first, and all the way through the entire game. So if you mix attack types, if you mix different strategies within a deck, that's a very big gamble that you'll get a weird combination of stuff in your first couple turns that isn't going to work right. And that can really hold you back throughout the entire course of the game, especially if it's a close game. So if you're going mostly ranged, go all in on ranged. If you're going mostly melee, go all in on melee. Really make sure that the pieces work well together as best they can with whatever level you've got. One thing I've been really enjoying is that, let's go ahead and just play some games. You've got Lilith Hesperax with a 400-point deck, which I don't think I've ever done before because she's perpetually banned in PvP. And I don't know that there have been that many max level campaigns where you can actually run Lilith. There must have been at some point. Eldari campaigns you could run her. Oh, wow. Okay. So this is someone who's barely played at all. This is a question for players here. If you're a newer player, let me know how the deck points work if you don't have maximum deck points, because I don't know how that impacts the 400. I don't know if it's a percent or what. So this very clearly is not 400 deck points. This is maybe, well, actually it might be. We got 200 there, and then, yeah, it's still leaving some on the table. But I think it was just using the biggest, heaviest things. A note on Gazgul, Supreme Commander Gazgul Thraka. His ability triggers based on the hit points of cards you have on the board anytime anything deploys. So an endless card will trigger his thing to do the extra damage. So you saw that was a clean sweep. But yeah, so if you have two things on the board, the 400 hit points, you can drop a 9-point endless in a very dangerous spot and get some free damage out of that, easily filling out your deck. So yeah, that was an interesting deck to play against. So again, that was Lilith Hesperax. One of my very favorite warlords, and that was just the pure ranged. We can look at the pure melee, and I have some very frightening cards at very high level. So yeah, it's a little bit hard to judge this based on what this would look like for a new player. So I'm going to do one more with the pure melee, just because I love Lilith. And then we're going to try deck building with some lower level cards. I'm going to very intentionally hamstring myself a bit to see what we can do with low level stuff and see how it goes. And now most of the decks I've played against have been pretty straightforward and fairly easy to beat. I don't know if that's just been luck or if it's just because the pool is so broad with so few decks that are actually like, scary tier. It's hard to know. So we'll see a little bit of that. I don't think I've had any game that was really too much of a challenge, but I've been running some pretty scary stuff. Some things I've really been enjoying is being able to run theme decks that you can't do before, or that you couldn't justify in PvP because they weren't going to do all that well, and they didn't necessarily work in a campaign or at 200 deck points. Some of my favorites are I've got one that's basically pure Space Wolves. That's been really fun. I'm really enjoying doing that and being able to do that because you can't really get away with that at the deck points in PvP. And I'm playing extremely quickly. I apologize for that. You see me avoiding that big game hunter. Couple notes specific to the 400 deck point modes. Stock's way up on big game hunter because to fill up a 400 point deck, even if you have a max size deck, there's going to be multiple cards in there, basically guaranteed, that are more than 40 points. So you'll almost guaranteed to trigger your big game hunters, where in the typical ladder, there was always a chance that you wouldn't trigger big game hunter at all. Bloop. All right, there we go. So let's actually take a look at that. Let's see who is my lowest level warlord. Let's go from there. I wish I could sort by level. Let me tell you, some of the characters that absolutely slap at max deck points are Supreme Commander Abaddon. Lilith, of course, is utterly terrifying. The Lion is extremely good at this deck size, so this is definitely a time to brush off your Supreme Commanders if you have them. If you don't, look up those promo codes. I've got a bunch in posts on my channel if you want to find them. Several of those will actually give you free Supreme Commander Ghazghkull Thraka, free Supreme Commander Lionel Johnson, and free Supreme Commander Gilliman. I think all three of those have dropped in promo code packs. Others too, but I may not know them. So let's look at this. I'm going to look at like very weak stuff that I have, or my lowest level stuff. What do we got? And I want to see how I would deck build. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there we go. And this is one I always want to work. So we'll just go. We're going to go ahead and run some Dark Angels and see if I can fill a deck with low level cards and see if I can pull it off. In part, I'm going to see if I can use lower level cards and even fill up a deck, but also I want to kind of see what the experience is like for somebody who doesn't have, scary tier cards. Let's see, and a lot of the actually kind of challenging, both to fill the deck and then also to find cards that are not decently high level. So we'll go ahead and go with that. There's a good chance that if you're starting out, you don't have the full 400 deck points, even with a warlord you like. So we'll try this. My Belial's quite scary. So this probably is still a more powerful deck than most you're going to see. But I'm going to go a little bit more slowly here, talk about what I'm doing, and kind of see if I can help. This is also maybe a bad example because this is one where I didn't stick with a strong theme. I didn't go full range, I didn't go full melee because I'm playing with Azrael, Grandmaster Azrael, whose ability relies on switching between your attack types. So if you use an attack type you didn't use in the previous turn, you get attack bonuses. And this again is against a fairly low level Greyfax. And you do see a lot of Greyfaxes, but they're not very scary because you have so many more points than usual to deal with them. I say that, watch me lose this. Oh yeah, there we go. This thing, by the way, if you get this card, this is level 3. It's still one of the scariest shooting cards I have in my entire collection. When this thing gets high level, okay, now we can do that, or we can do melee. Oh, I do think I still want to shoot this. And then when I start rolling out my non-ranged cards, I will go ahead and switch the theme over. But as you can see, I'm not having much trouble cruising through this yet, and I still have 3 cards left in the bank. I do still need to deal with this guy. I think I still have it though, because I've got the Inspiring Presence, I've got the Anti-Infantry, got the Decent Ready, and I will get the attack. Yeah, we got it, okay. Whew. I said I was going to go a little bit slowly, but I didn't, because there wasn't a whole lot technically to talk about in that game. A couple things that I did do. You saw me shuffle things around quite a bit where I was trying to mitigate what was dying when, obviously. Let's actually go ahead and give that a try again. And then day one, I mean, you see you get about 60 trophies per win. Um, you do also get demoted if you lose. So you do kind of want to go ahead and go through the decks. But you should be fairly comfortably able to get 2K with one faction. If you have one very strong faction, that can carry you most of the way, and then the other 5 can make up the other 1K of trophies. So if you want to go all in with one, you can get away with that. Now that was a matchup where I didn't want to go Psychic because it was against all Psychers. What else we got? We got Tolmeron. This should be a really good matchup. He's going probably all in on ranged. Tolmeron is a good and bad choice for 400 deck points. He's good because you can really get some power pieces on there. He's bad because he's cheap, and so it's actually somewhat hard to fill up your deck points. So he's going to shoot the crap out of me, and I'm going to go ahead and ready so that I'm primed for a bigger punchy attack my next turn with whatever I have left. So I readied. Let's see. I think I may go ahead and punch him though. So we'll go ahead and do this, and that's going to charge up my ranged attack for my next round. And this is going to be a tough matchup because Tolmeron is very powerful with his buffing abilities for his ranged cards, but I think I've got this one. Oh god, okay. And this guy's in a promo code, so you can get this guy too. And that set me up to do a ranged attack next if I choose to do so. Let's see what we got. He's got a ranged. Oh yeah. Oh, there's so many. Okay. Oof. Oof. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do this. You can see I'm feeling the feeling the pinch here. That low level Azrael is very, very flimsy, and I really don't want to be careful with him. Nice. Okay, we got it. Ooh. And there I readied and risked that to try to go ahead and build up the attack. That was a close enough one where I only got 50 trophies. I do think that this is an experimental matchmaking technique. It's a little bit different than the typical ladder. So it is a little bit more generous with trophies for high level players, which I think is going to help with the matchmaking, letting them quickly get ahead of the pack to where you won't be matched against really scary decks too early on. With the reset to 0, that also is very helpful. So it's very clear to see which decks are being played in this specific session. So it makes the matchmaking significantly easier because it's a lot more accurate to what trophy counts decks should actually have. And then the reset to 0 gives you this massive flat pool so that it'll be really likely that the scarier decks blend in with all of the other decks and don't end up being very, very intimidating. I did talk about the meme Space Wolves. Let's go ahead and do that one. We're going to do Space Wolves, and then I'm going to go ahead and do one with Supreme Commander Abaddon, just because it is utterly terrifying. Just to do it. And this is a fun one. I wanted to go all in on Space Wolves, but the points didn't quite work out, so I had to throw in this guy here. It was actually challenging to fill all Space Wolves in the 400 deck points. We just need a Space Wolf Supreme Commander somewhere. Yeah, hopefully you're with me. If you're, enjoying this, whatever, I would love to hear your comments about the Apocalypse mode changes. I think generally it's really good. 10 decks and 200 free gold every single week is a lot, especially for free-to-play players, especially for new players. That's a lot of extra that you can use to progress comfortably throughout the game. And it's really nice too because wow, this is going to suck. Luckily, the AI has no idea how to play Supreme Commander Gosard. Should never have played this early. And it's level 2, which is nice, but still, yuck. Yeah, wow. But yes, in general, I think this is going to be much, much easier for newer players to be more approachable. Getting up to 2,000 trophies with 6 factions should be relatively attainable for just about everyone. Even if you have bad luck, like hitting something like this, it should be totally doable. And to do that, you'll very quickly see your cards collection and your play and your decks all improve really, really fast if you are able to go ahead and do that. To actually play through these. Man, that is a gnarly deck. This may actually be the first time I've seen Supreme Commander Gosar at 400 deck points, so he's not messing around. None of these are chaff cards. Well, that guy. So many of those are actually scary cards. No, there are chaff cards in there. Okay. But the 400 deck points is actually challenging for Supreme Commander Gosar because you have to fill the deck. You have to fill the 400 deck points with whatever you don't have as a 10-point chaff card. And let's see what level that Gosar is. 3. All right. All right. So he's going to have a free Churda, and I really don't want to put the wolf himself. Well, you know what? Let's do it. Overflow damage. Yeah, love it. Putting something squishy next to something dangerous is a great strategy with the Wolf King's overflow damage because you want to overkill things as hard as possible. But you can see, I would still get Skull Pack progression. I would still get the Kill Pack or the Imperial Treasury or Battle Pass progression. Yeah, it's nice. It doesn't feel like wasted time. The games and decks are really interesting and more varied than what I've been doing. I mean, not more varied than what I've been doing, but it's a nice change of pace. So I really appreciate having this. And being someone who loves free rewards, getting those free rewards every single week is gonna be nice. Especially for moments like right now, there are 2 campaigns up that I don't really have a ton of motivation to get the more materials or more stuff for those factions. So having the option to do something like this instead is really nice. I really like that. Oh, hang on, that's not what I clicked on. Imperial Treasury, there we go. All right, we're gonna do one more, and then I'll go ahead and call it. I don't want this video to get too long. I just wanted to go ahead and show off a little bit of this and talk about some of the details I didn't know in my previous video, and just kind of show it off a little bit. Yeah, and so we've seen kind of my high-level cards. We've seen some of my low-level cards just to see that experience a little bit, and now we're just going to see a fully unleashed Supreme Commander Gosar. Another note on this is an opportunity to try out Ranged Chaos, which has been very fun. So I have a melee deck with Abaddon. Let's see what we can do with Ranged. And now the thing with Supreme Commander Abaddon is he does best if you make sure all of your cards have the same ready type. So if I'm going ranged, I want my ranged readies. And I tried Huron, and I found that the buff to damage was just not high enough to really, you don't get that much extra damage. Whereas with Supreme Commander Abaddon, you really feel it when you kill stuff and get that extra melee is what I've been using. You get that extra melee attack. It's really great. You hit incredibly hard. Let's see. We're looking for a ranged ready. Yeah, we won't go too hard. We'll go back to this 11-point guy. There we go. Little poison. Da da da. And I love it. I've been kind of pursuing the very strong ranged chaos deck for a long time because I love just having that variety of playstyles. I don't want to go all in on melee every time. I don't want to go all in psychic every time. Oh god. Okay. Oh, bad matchup. Glogothrox is actually worse in 400 deck points by quite a bit because there's so many things that will get kills. Just because usually Glogothrox is really good if you feed your opponent squishy stuff. So you take your endless stuff, you take your taunt stuff, and you just feed it to opposing power cards, and then those cards become weak throughout the game. But in this one, there's so many power cards that even if you do that, you've run out of chaff cards too soon, and the other cards that you haven't fed bum stuff to are still much scarier. So look at those readies. If you have the same ready type and you're doing a lot of damage, it's just crazy how much of a buff you build up every single turn. And this is significantly better than ranged Huron. Ranged Huron, I wasn't getting anywhere near this much. I was getting like plus 20 maybe to their individual attack stats. And sure, it was permanent, but it applied to that card. So even here, if I lose this guy in the middle, if he was the one building up my bonus attacks, it wouldn't help him anymore. Whereas this will apply even if I have to deploy a new card in there. So, and this also really highlights what I was talking about, where you want your theme to be consistent all the way through. Where having the ranged cards, you don't want to mix them in with other stuff because you could get a bad draw and it could just totally ruin your day. So there was that. Let's see, one more. I wanted to unleash the Super Psychic Eldrads. We'll go ahead and do that. Oh god, all 8-hour packs. But you can see I'm comfortably on my way to getting that 2K trophies, and you see how quickly that progresses. And I've played around with a bunch of different factions, a bunch of different decks, and the games themselves do still go quite quickly. Yeah, so I know I said one more, I think. We'll do one more. Really one more. For the last time, one more. Just going to be one Eldrad deck. Because seeing Eldrad fully unleashed is just a thing of beauty. And here I would have gone all Psychers, but I had to shuffle some stuff out, or I was like 80 points short. Yeah, which actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and do it anyway, because I do think it's still better, even if I'm not using full deck points. So we'll take this guy out, and we'll take this guy out. We'll see what else fits in here with 103 points. So I'll put in 65, 67, and still have 36 kicking around. Yeah, I can drop that guy, but the Medicae is nice. So I'll go ahead and keep the Medicae. Well, really don't need it. And that's the thing too, is Medicae is actually not as helpful because your resources are not as limited. So the whole like thought process around these is much more difficult, where you're less concerned with losing cards because you have more redundancy. You have more cards to fall back on, which again, going back to my main point, is why that unified theme of your deck matters so much, that your fill-in backups are the same theme and working together with the cards you have left on the table and the ones they're coming in to replace. And of course, the abilities of the warlords you run. So, and it is cool to see this. I'm seeing more higher trophy count, so people are definitely playing it. And I'm also getting matched against them more. I'm not seeing the 0 trophy players as much. You still get that same warlord rotation that you get in ranked. So you shouldn't see the same warlord over and over and over again, which is really nice. This could actually be a very challenging match. Well, less so if that happens. Oh, the psychic. It's so much psychic. I'm going to try double speed and just see. It is so much slower. Nice leisurely finish, and then I'm going to bed right after this. This is going to be perfect. And I've gotten some very lucky drops. So my Eldrad is incredibly scary. He's actually, I believe, my highest level legendary in my entire collection. I've got a level 11 Eldrad, which just is crazy to see. And there's no joke. These are, well, they're somewhat low level. Yeah, I mean, they're trait rank 1. So yeah, I'm seeing a lot of players get through this well. My biggest tip for new players is really focus on your strongest faction, but as soon as you start losing more than half your games, or even half, change. Switch to another faction so that you're rotating appropriately. And just use a bunch, experiment, try to stick to your themes, try to understand your warlords as well as you can. Oh man, it's so much more relaxing at the slower game speeds. That is wild. Yeah, but it does take longer. So if I'm playing a bunch of games to progress, I'm glad I'm not doing this every time. But for this moment, this is very, it's calming. It's nice. Okay. Man, yeah, and you can see the level difference. These two both would have been dead if these were higher level cards between that precision shot and then that psionic blast. Kapow. Ah, there we go. So 47. Okay, I was overrated on that one. And that's it. We'll go ahead and leave it there. I'm definitely going to play it to the 2000 just as long as it remains being fun. I'm mostly there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, it's meant to be. It's a sign. Okay, leave it there. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear what you're running, what you think of it. If you're a newer player, especially, I'd love to have a discussion about what the challenges are, what you're trying, and how it's going. Yeah, see if I can help. Anyway, cheers. Have a good night.